Well, welcome to Direct Line, the Montgomery County Republican Club's weekly show since COVID about bringing headliners and newsmakers and finding out what the story is. And I am, first of all, joined by my co-host, Don Irvine. Don?
How you doing? Good to see you, Mark.
Who is in his bunker with both Trump and Reagan behind him. And we're joined on the show tonight by Kathy Szeliga. Delegate Kathy is one of the leaders in the General Assembly on behalf of the Republicans. So welcome, Kathy. And she is probably best known, if you'll forgive me for saying that, she's probably better known for most people in Maryland, not for her role there, but for her Senate campaign in 2016, where she ran a great race. And we remember you for that. So welcome, Kathy. I guess he didn't like that intro. I don't know.
I thought it was great.
Don't you get enough from the teleprompter, Mark?
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Not the first time we've had technical issues.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the Montgomery County Republican Club's Direct Line, which is our weekly show on Wednesday night. It's also available on YouTube, but also on Facebook and on our website, where we get to interview headliners, newsmakers, and distinguished people like our guest, Kathy Szeliga. But I'm also joined tonight with Don Irvine, one of our regulars. Don is in our underground bunker, right?
That's right. Definitely underground.
Now, Kathy is best known for running for the Senate in 2016, but and where she did a great job representing the party, running statewide. But she's also known as being one of the leaders of Republican House Caucus, where she fights the good fight in Annapolis. So welcome, Kathy.
Thanks so much, Mark and Don, and Dwight, of course, in the background. Great to be with all of you. I've been to many club meetings in Montgomery County, and this is the shortest commute. I went up to my attic, and we're here, so I didn't have to sit in. I mean, let's be serious. The only thing about COVID that could be positive is I'm not sitting in traffic, and neither are you, right?
Right.
When I would come to Montgomery County, I've been, like I said, many times to club meetings and Central Committee, and I come down at 2:00, find a place to sit and work because the traffic's so bad. So,
well, we sometimes take a perverse pleasure of having people arrive late to Montgomery County functions because we want them to feel the real Montgomery County experience of gridlock. If you came on time, somehow we wouldn't be living up to our expectation.
So it's not as gridlocky as it was.
Not these days, no.
Not like it used to.
Yeah, it's probably easy rush hour all the time there. That's true.
Now, Kathy, topic number one, I guess in Annapolis these days, or at least among Republicans in the General Assembly, has got to be the announcement today of that the two leaders, Steve Hershey and J.B. Jennings, will be stepping aside from their leadership position, and obviously that sets up a vacancy. So without betraying, well, actually, we want you to betray confidences. Would you betray some confidences and tell us what's going on?
Well, Jennings is leader, Steve Hershey whip, and they've been in leadership in the Senate, in the Maryland Republican Senate caucus for 6 years. And, there was a misleading headline about resigning. They've just decided not to run again. So they're not resigning. There's going to be an election on Saturday in Annapolis. The 15 members of the GOP caucus will get together, and their elections are run a little bit different than the House. In the House, we run together as, leader and whip. In the Senate, there's an election for the leader and there's an election for the whip. So I can tell you that Mike Huff was running for whip, and I'm sure he is still. He's Frederick County. I know you guys know him well. And he's been a partner in campaigning for me for, oh gosh, since we both were staffers in the Senate. So he worked for Alex Mooney and I worked for Andy Harris. We've been friends for more than a decade. He'll be a great leader over there in the Senate caucus. And I'm not sure where the leader's shaken out at this point, but I'm sure they're going to be well served. And JB and Steve are smart. You can't hold on to leadership, and it's always great to get new ideas and new blood.
Well, it'll be interesting. We'll be able to watch. It must be frustrating a bit for being sometimes in the Republican with the push and the pull between the governor's position and also representing what are predominantly Republican districts that are perhaps a little bit more conservative than where the governor. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes, and we are the Big Tent party. So we as Republicans in Maryland, as Republicans across the nation, we welcome people with different ideas. We never, Kipke and I, as leader in the whip in the House, we never tell people how to vote. We just say, vote your conscience, vote your district. Every district looks different. On a veto override, we'll say we're a team. We have to support the governor, and we don't have to whip our members to not vote for taxes. I mean, of course, they're not voting for taxes, but so the Governor Hogan's popular, as you know. He's one of the most popular governors in the nation, and he's very popular in Montgomery County, where you don't have any elected Republicans. But hopefully, with redistricting, we can change that, because you certainly have many Republicans in Montgomery County, and you should have representation, right?
Right. Well, there are probably two elephants in the room. I think we were talking before, maybe it's a Macedon or something like that. But one, of course, is the Kirwan commission recommendations, the multi-billion-dollar proposal, and the other one has got to be the consequences of the COVID on the budget. So both of those are going to be front and center coming up in the next session. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, Kirwan is billion upon billion dollar per year in additional spending for education. Maryland voters always support education. It's always one of the top 3 issues when they're polled by a legitimate pollster. Education always comes in one of the top 3 spaces. In Montgomery County, you see it very clearly that public education is important. Your school system is one of the top 3 funded school districts in the nation. And you have great student achievement, not in every school, but, certainly most of your schools have good student achievement, and teachers make good money. I would guess, and probably an educated guess here, the average teacher in Montgomery County is making $90,000 a year, getting the summers off and the holidays and a great pension and, good benefits. So the teachers are compensated. But I just don't know how during COVID we have businesses going out of business. Potentially 40-50% of the restaurants will not reopen. So many jobs on the line here. Hospitality industry has just been decimated. You have Marriott right there in Montgomery County, and they're laying off people. So now is not the time to pass this bill that's $32 billion. So when we come back to Annapolis in January, I'm hoping that they decide not to override Governor Hogan's veto, and they probably will put something together called Kirwan Light, because the teachers union wants them to put more money into education. So just so your listeners know, the estimates for Kirwan, the behemoth, woolly mammoth, T-Rex bill that it is, when it's fully funded, Baltimore City Public Schools will be spending about $32,000 per student per year. So, just to put that into perspective for people who don't have kids in school or haven't paid for private school, the parochial school down the street from me here is about $5,000 a year per student per year. And Baltimore City will be spending about $32,000 per year per student, more than Calvert Hall, Loyola. I'm not as familiar with the parochial schools in the Montgomery County area, but certainly more than most of the schools over there too.
Incredible.
Yeah, let's give them a voucher, right?
Well, a voucher. Now, you were very involved with the effort to get schools open. We've been a subject of some controversy, both for the public schools, but also here in Montgomery County for the private and parochial schools.
Yes, that one of my major accomplishments over COVID this summer. In August, your unelected health officer, who doesn't live in Montgomery County, he lives in Baltimore, in DC, was going to close all non-public schools in Montgomery County in August. And, I jumped right on that and said, no way, Jose, this is not going to fly. You don't have the authority, the power, the legitimacy to close non-public schools. And, listen, parents care more about their kids than anybody else. You as a parent are not going to send your kid to a school that's not safe. These schools had put thousands of dollars of investment into safety procedures and, physical changes to their buildings and designs of all kinds to keep kids safe. And he backed down. So it was great. I got on Fox and Friends, and, I was on Fox Business with Neil Cavuto, really pressing it. And then Governor Hogan also on board, just telling Elrich, look, you can't do this. You and your health officers do not have the power to shut down these non-public schools. So I think they're all open. They're doing well. We haven't seen big COVID outbreaks in any of these schools that are currently open.
It's been a part of, I guess, the conversation that we're having as a country between this sort of continuum that people have of the amount of risk that they're willing to take on. And it's interesting. In Montgomery County, both Mark Elridge and the leadership have tried to stake out as far as a sort of risk-free position as they can possibly get. And it is really out of step, not just with the rest of the country, but even the rest of the state. So how does that compare with, say, where you are?
So, it varies. I represent Harford and Baltimore counties. I live close to the Harford-Baltimore County line. Harford County is pretty open. They've got people dining inside, with safety precautions and, 75% capacity. Outdoor looks great. People are shopping, going about their lives. Public schools are going to start reopening to students within a couple weeks. We really pressed hard to say we're failing these special needs kids and the primary, kindergarten, first, second grade. These kids need to be in school. You can read to learn, but if you can't really learn to read on a Zoom call. Right. You really need to learn to read in person with a teacher. I mean, if you're a homeschool family, then it's a different approach to education than a public school education where they hand you a tablet and say, log in at this certain time. So, it works a little better for older kids, again, who can read to learn. But I'm very, very concerned about the achievement gap that is being created with families that just don't have the ability to help their kids with these preschool, kindergarten, first, second grade families, that it's just going to create a really big achievement gap. And again, back to our special needs kids, a lot of them can't even log on, depending on their disability, they're just completely being failed.
It's interesting that Kirwan was, of course, intended to address this achievement gap, and yet COVID has really thrown a wrench into the process. But it's interesting, the position that the teachers union seems to have been taking a harder line against reopening. Is that being overly polite, or am I on target?
Yeah, I think you're being very polite. Their motto should be "Hell no, we won't go." I
Right.
mean, they really don't want to go back to class. And so many teachers I know, I have friends that teach in Montgomery County, across the state. Many of them do want to go back to the classroom. And I don't know why. Look, educators are supposed to be problem solvers. They're supposed to teach our kids how to solve problems. And this is a problem that they failed in all ways. Why can't you match up kids who want to go back in the classroom with teachers who feel comfortable back in the classroom? Why can't we find some hybrid systems? Instead, they just said we're keeping it closed until January 28th. It was crazy. And now there's a lot of pressure from parents because, they're having trouble making sure their kids are learning. And school is important. We said it's essential. So, I get it. Some teachers are uncomfortable. They have health problems. The people in their household have health problems. I get that. We should be protecting vulnerable people. We should be protecting older people with comorbidities. I'm all for that. But, younger teachers who want to go back to the classroom and families who don't have any of those things, I don't know why we can't accommodate them in some fashion.
Well, it's interesting here in Montgomery County, the school system did a survey of teachers, and this is June, July, was before they basically took on the plan that they had now. And they found that about a quarter of the teachers were willing or ready to come back to school. So there, as you say, there was really an opportunity to do a kind of triage to prioritize those students who had, IED, had plans
Yeah.
and needed perhaps some extra help. But then basically after the survey done and then the initial steps were taken, the Montgomery County Public Schools backed off in response really directly to the teachers union.
Also, Mark, what's interesting is Montgomery County Public Schools, some of them are open to students. So if parents want to pay for their kids to go to a school facility that we're being told isn't safe, right? It's not safe for kids to be in school. But if you're willing to pay $200 to $300 or $350 a week, your kid can go to a Montgomery County public school, not all of them, some of these selected ones, and they have hired people who are not teachers who will, watch your kids Zoom learn or something like that. It makes no sense. I mean, if it's not safe to be in school, how do you have schools open with kids in school, but you don't have licensed teachers teaching them? You have other people teaching them. The whole thing is very hypocritical, and it's unfortunate that your legislators are very beholden to the teachers union and they're not willing to stand up to it. In other counties like Harford County, and we've been pressing hard to get schools open. Baltimore County as well. Cecil County's been open. They have some hybrid programs going. So, Montgomery County parents, keep pressing your school board, pressing your legislators to get schools open in some fashion. Again, I'm not advocating for, going back to what things look like last September or October. Nobody's saying that. We're saying be safe, be careful, put in, safeguards and figure out a way to get teachers and kids that want to be in school back in school.
As you say, we've really learned a lot around the country, and there are lessons to be learned elsewhere. Now, Montgomery County is not the only woke county in the state. We have the decision on the part of Baltimore City to go with now. What are they calling Columbus Day now?
Oh my goodness, Indigenous People Day. So yes, the Baltimore City Council rushed through, I think, 2 hearings in one day, a bill to rename Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day. This bill is sitting on the desk of Jack Young, the mayor. I don't know if he's going to sign it or not, but it's really a shame. People aren't able to get in, testify. Where's the transparency? It's totally disrespecting the Italian American community. As the leader of this year's Italian American community that was running the parade that isn't happening and the festivals, he said this is akin to taking St. Patty's Day away from the Irish. that, this is about more than Christopher Columbus. It's about Italian Americans and, also about explorers. I mean,
I'm a little worried though. You just set up a prospect that could we lose St. Patrick's Day, because it is kind of has a religious connection to it. It's a saint, right?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't looked into St. Patrick. So if he did bad things, I mean, I guess,
But you're promoting religion, right? I mean,
well,
it's St. Patrick's Day, right?
you're
Well,
right, Mark. It could be promoting Catholicism.
Mark, if you take away these holidays, what's Dwight going to celebrate?
Right. What do you celebrate? Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
the disembodied voice goes forward. Just for the record, because I always tell people that sarcasm and irony don't work, that I am not advocating getting rid of St. Patrick's Day. I think it's a very important holiday that we should continue to honor.
Yeah, well, they tore down the statue on the 4th of July in Baltimore City, the riotous mobs, videotaped, tore the statue down off of its pedestal and threw it in the harbor. There have been 0 arrests. We have video footage of who was there and what they were doing. The police haven't arrested anybody. The Italian American community is very strong in Baltimore City. They have a wonderful restaurant section, and it's just been such a vibrant, important part of the city. The residents there are very disappointed. So I've invited them to Baltimore County. I think that, potentially Hartford or Baltimore County should be the next year's host of that important parade. And, we'll move those restaurants, and people who want to come up to the county, come on up. We appreciate you.
We'll have a little Italy and I guess Towson or something like that.
And White Marsh. I mean, right. Exactly. But we'll pick a great spot for them.
Sounds good. Now, of course, we're in the middle of the election season, and voters have a lot of choices. We've had a lot of attention here in Montgomery County paid on our local initiatives. There's a tax initiative and two different initiatives in restructuring the county council. And to be honest with you, less attention has been paid to the statewide initiatives. Question 1 and question 2, could you give us a little guidance on those? First with question 1.
Yes. So many of you are on my email list. If you're not, just shoot me and, go on my website, elect Kathy, Kathy, electkathy.com. And, it has a place up at the top where you can get involved, sign up, get on my email list. I'm sending something out tomorrow with the rundown on these 2 issues. So there's 2 statewide ballot initiatives. The first one they're calling the balanced budget amendment, or, very crafty language. But basically what it's going to do is allow the legislature to increase spending and monkey around with the budget. And I'm a hard no on that. 0 Republicans voted for that during the session. So it had 0 GOP support. Listen, in 1915, they had to change the budget process, let the governor have the budget. And because the legislature had practically bankrupted the state, they raised spending by over 150% in a few years. And so they couldn't be trusted then. I would say, let's not give them the keys to the kingdom. Vote no. Tell your friends, family, everyone, vote no on that. It's a bad idea. There are some checks and balances, even when we get a Democrat governor, there'll be some checks and balances with the governor and the executive and the legislative branch. I think it's good for taxpayers. Number 2 is about sports betting. So all gambling in Maryland has to go on the ballot. All of our surrounding states now have sports betting. The Supreme Court made a decision 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that's Atlantic City sued Las Vegas, sued and said Vegas shouldn't be the only place to have sports betting. Went all the way to the Supreme Court, they prevailed. So now sports betting can be legalized across the country. All of the states around us have done that. So I tell people, if you're against expanding gambling, you want to vote no on question 2. If you're ambivalent or you want to participate in sports betting, you want to vote yes on number 2. So, we already have the lottery. We have casinos. some people would say that this should hopefully stop the illegal sports betting trade. People who go to bookies and bet on football games. Um, there people would say, oh, this will stop illegal betting. I don't believe that's true. And then they say, oh, it'll go to education. Well, it's not going to solve our education problems either. It's simply an expansion of gambling. So you just have to look at that. I'm not, advocating for a yes or no. I'm telling people, vote your conscience on that. If you don't like gambling, vote no. If you're ambivalent or you want to expand it, vote yes.
Could you elaborate? It's always a little about this quote set aside for education that exists for basically for gambling. This isn't the first time that this has come up, and it really requires a little explanation because how shall I say, not to step on you and what you're going to say, but it really is a little truth of advertising problem of how all that works.
Mark, it is for the children. Now, come on. It is for the children. Go out, buy yourself a lottery ticket. It is for the children. So, you go back. When did the lottery get, legalized? I was a child, in the 70s or, something like that. And, we were told, oh, the lottery, it's going to solve our education funding problem. So then casinos came in and they said, oh, it's going to solve these education shortfalls. But what they ended up doing is they, supplemented. So we're getting, I'm just picking numbers out of the sky, 10 million, $100 million from the casinos. It's going to education, but then they would just take that 100 million and put it somewhere else. So, they weren't adding to the pile. They were scooping off that to the top and sending it somewhere else. But we put a lockbox in. They can't do that anymore. So no more taking that money and putting it somewhere else. So it will add to the education funding formulas. But again, a $32 billion Kerwin bill, it is not going to even, it'll be a drop in the bucket. I think if I remember correctly, they're estimating maybe $100 million a year in taxes will come in from that. We have a $47 billion budget. We spend $7 billion on education. So 100 million is not some earth-shattering amount of money.
It's less than basically less than 2%, and that's it's a small piece of that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. There's a little bit of a bait and switch there.
Yes, it does. They did change that, but the current need or the current desire from the left to put all that money in education is certainly creating a vacuum where they're going to be looking for money anywhere. They're going to be looking under the cushions in the sofa. They're going to be shaking you upside down and seeing what change falls out of your pocket. I mean, they are going to be looking for money everywhere.
Now, one of the ideas that Mark Elrich floated when he was running for county executive was his idea for funding Kerwin. I don't know if he was going to fund all $30 billion of it, but was to legalize marijuana. And he was looking to the experience in Colorado. I got to say, $32 billion, that's a lot of joints that he was planning to sell. I don't think anybody was going to be getting anything done in Maryland if that was
I don't know what would happen to the workforce at that level of usage to generate that kind of taxation. Another thing, liberals love to tax vices, right? We're going to tax alcohol, we're going to tax gambling, we're going to tax marijuana, any vice that you have, they want to tax it. And maybe the public's less angry about, taxing vices, but there is a proposal to increase the alcohol tax yet again. So there was a letter in the Baltimore Sun. There are a couple of legislators that are pushing this idea to, add another percent, raise the alcohol tax from 9% to 10%. It's an 11% increase, but our restaurants are barely hanging on right now. People, now is not the time to raise taxes, right? I mean, with all the people that are suffering under COVID, where we have all these programs to help people pay their rent, pay their utility bills, make their car payments. We have the service industry that has really been hammered by this COVID. And these are the people that it will hurt more by increasing, taxes on alcohol. And I think they have so many problems they're going to solve with this one, increase in alcohol tax. It's pie in the sky, but we will be fighting that as well.
Well, I confess I have a bit of a long memory on that, because I recall when that increased tax above the normal sales tax, the regular sales tax went through, through the entire process, they described it was going to be, as I recall, was the developmentally disabled. It was going to be money that was going to be set aside for them. And it was promoted, how could you be against that? Right up until the very last minute, when the money just slipped into the general fund.
Oh yeah, there was a dime a drink, remember? I mean, who could compare? Why would you complain about a dime a drink? And it's going to the disabled, the developmentally disabled community, which I, totally support. We need to fully fund that community. These are folks that, need help. I'm pro-life. I want to support families who are raising kids with disability and taking care of adults with disability. I think that's fair. I think that's what a civilized society does, is we take care of people who can't take care of themselves, not people who won't take care of themselves. And, so it was an easy sell for them. They're like a dime a drink, and we're taking care of people that everybody supports and wants to take care of. But we knew what you said, Mark. It was like not the way it was really going to work. So I think they got some funding for 1 year, maybe 2, and that was the end of it. So now they're back in Annapolis saying, we need help. You raise the minimum wage. The workers that service the disabled adult community that, live in group homes, we can't figure out how to make the math work. And so it's been a challenge.
I have a confession to make, and I don't know, this may be a confession against interest, because I think I may have to pay a use tax on this. But the first couple of years after the dime a drink you described, I used to go to Virginia and buy a couple cases of beer. But I did it at Total, which, for those of you who don't know the references, it's the Trone family store. They actually have some great large box. We don't have them in Maryland, but they have large box liquor stores and very good prices on cases of beer. So I'm not sure what I accomplished there, except I did avoid having to pay my 9% sales tax for a couple of years.
Yeah, well, maybe Francia would have been waiting at the border.
Yeah, I suspect now that I'm going to have, well, probably not Len Foxwell anymore, but somebody from the controller's office will be sending me a use tax form to fill out for that. So I just wanted to preface it. I'm quite sure that the statute of limitations has run out on those purchases.
Well, we do. We have a Total Wine store in Baltimore County, a big one of those large, stores that the Trone family owns. And you guys in Montgomery County have some really antiquated, how's that a word? Antiquated alcohol laws.
Yes, you're being very gentle, like I was with the teachers union. You're being very gentle with the liquor laws here.
Yeah, you guys have to buy your hard liquor from the state-sponsored liquor store, right?
County sponsored.
Yeah, county-sponsored liquor store. So yeah, well, in Baltimore County, if it makes you feel any better, you can't buy beer, wine. You can't buy alcohol on Sundays unless you go to a special store. So we have a picking winners and losers system for Sunday sales in Baltimore County. But other than that, Monday to Saturday, we have pretty decent liquor laws, unlike you guys. Are your liquor stores open on Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So people will avoid taxes. Bottom line, if they raise the tax, people will avoid them because, current sales tax, then you put 9% alcohol tax and you raise it up to 10%. People will do what you did, and they'll go to Virginia or Pennsylvania, Delaware.
Well,
Delaware's tax free. You save depending on how much you drink.
I was visiting the shore not long ago, and I happened to be between meetings, and I noticed a liquor store just over the border into Delaware. So it was.
Yeah, I guess Delaware should hire a lobbyist and ask them to push through that extra tax.
I think I could think of a store that might particularly benefit there.
Yeah,
So
actually, I've heard that there was a home builder during Martin O'Malley's term of governor in Maryland. There was a home builder right over the PA line across from Baltimore County who had pictures of his top salesman and Martin O'Malley's picture. And he was like, yeah, keep on raising those taxes in Maryland and putting on sprinklers and septic and all of your crazy rules, and we're just selling houses as fast as we can build them.
Well, it's interesting. We do remember how bad things were under O'Malley, and really how quickly Governor Hogan was able to turn things around. But much of what he's been able to do is hold the line on the General Assembly, and it's a bit sobering to remember just how much we depend on that for the way things have been for the last 6 years.
Yeah, you're right. Memory shouldn't get so short that we don't remember $12 billion in taxes and a rain tax, to top it all off with a ridiculous tax on the rain, right? And that's part of how Governor Hogan has been able to hold the line. O'Malley raised taxes so much that there was a fair amount of tax revenue. Some would say a big amount of tax revenue flowing into the state because of all the taxes that they had raised under O'Malley. I mean, remember they had the new millionaires tax that, $250,000 for a couple, you're now a millionaire. Just all the taxes that he raised, the sales tax, the liquor tax, the, income tax, and business corporate tax, it all went up. So let's not forget that in 2 years, when the Democrats are putting together their next candidate that will come in and do that same thing again.
That's true. It's interesting it's remembering that how quickly the small number of people on which our tax revenues depend on. I recall one state senator, Rich Mondolino, who was saying, "Oh well, houses can't sell that quickly. The market's not that good. They can't move that quickly." And he was a bit surprised when he found out something that we probably all should have realized, is that lots of millionaires have more than one home, and they have more than one residence, and it wasn't that difficult to switch things down to Florida or wherever, or a lower tax jurisdiction. So it's something to keep in mind for the future.
Yes, and you guys in Montgomery County are certainly a case study on that. So there's a great website. It's called How Money Walks, like, you're walking, How Money Walks. Google that. There's a tab called Explore the Data, and you can look at redacted IRS personal income data and also population and see, right down to your county level. So you can look at the 50 states, and then you can look within Maryland at the 23 counties and Baltimore City, and see over that amount of time, has the county, gained income or lost income, gained population, lost income, and then the top 5 places that people moved to and people moved from. So, with Montgomery County, I'm guarantee you've lost billions of dollars over the last 20 years. Your population, I think, is pretty much holding steady right now. The population was going up, but you were getting population from DC, places right. that they were coming from, and the people were leaving, and top place they were going was Florida and Virginia. Florida, Virginia, West Virginia. But you can look at that data. It's fascinating. And it really proves that tax policy changes behavior. Well, and we know that, liberals know that, because they want to tax cigarettes, right?
Right, exactly.
They want to tax cigarettes because they don't want people to smoke. So they say, oh, if we put, another $2 tax on every pack of cigarettes, people will stop smoking. yes, taxes change behavior. So, people will move out of Montgomery County. They'll move out of Maryland if we go back to that tax and spend mentality.
Sure, and in Montgomery County, we've sort of relied historically on the proximity to the government. So he was government employees, but it was also the contractors and the various support groups that felt that needed to be close to the government. And it's very sobering to see the number of people that are sort of re-examining that and saying, I can be on Zoom. I don't necessarily have to be as close as I was before. And you talk to contractors whose employees are working remotely or working. I know of one employees in West Virginia. Our host has some. And are moving away. And so the premium that was paid to be in Montgomery County, obviously in Maryland as well, becomes not one that necessarily people have to pay, and they can move to someplace else.
I'm sure you're seeing it amongst your family and friends and neighbors, on a regular basis. And that is one thing COVID else, besides making your traffic better.
Right.
COVID may also, change the way people do business. And, while I miss seeing Martha and, some of your other great members that I just love seeing, I don't love sitting in traffic for an hour and 15 minutes to get to you. I do love, walking up to the attic of my house and being able to visit with you all. So I think absolutely, you can see it in your own workplace, and my kids are all working remotely. They all, thank goodness, have great jobs, their employment hasn't been affected by COVID. And, but their businesses are doing just that. They're saying, hey, maybe we don't need to pay for that top dollar office space. Wendell Beitzel, our great delegate from Deep Creek, he told me last week, I was chatting with him. He said Deep Creek is busier than it's ever been. Wendell grew up there, and other than going to, Europe during the Vietnam War, where he met his lovely wife in Germany, and coming back to Deep Creek, he's lived there his whole life. And he said everything's booked fully. People from DC are going to Deep Creek. They're renting a house, and they're working there. And as long as they get a good Wi-Fi signal, they're good to go. So, I think we're seeing a lot of that kind of thing that will stay, that will make permanent changes.
Sure. Now, we've talked more negatively about the General Assembly. What bills do you have that you want to see accomplished in the next session?
Well, Nick Kipke and I in the House Republican Caucus, we always like to put forward an agenda of things that we're for, right? I mean, what we're against. We're against taxes. We're against defunding the police. We're against demoralizing the police. We're against, these sanctuary state laws. Those kind of things are a given. So we will be pursuing. Last year we had some great education ideas to protect teachers, but this year I think we'll see a push for letting money follow the student in education. Parents are reassessing how they're educating their kids, and I think there's going to be an appetite to give parents an option for how they educate their children.
That would be a great initiative, and I think that really resonates across the state, because a lot of areas you do hear the frustration that parents have with the way they've been treated. We talked about that earlier, so it would be a great opportunity. So good luck with that. Now we're sort of coming up at the end, and we just want to thank you very much. And now you're a motorcyclist, right?
Yes, last weekend my husband and I rode up to Gettysburg, which was great. We have good friends who lives in Olney. He and his girlfriend met us up there, and it was a beautiful weather. We couldn't believe how busy Gettysburg was. People are stir crazy and they want to be outside, and that's a great outdoor. People walking around the battlefields, and so yeah, that was great. And this is perfect time of year to be out riding.
So we hope you enjoy some great time out motorcycling and get some good rest and relaxation in before the next session.
Well,
But anyway, Kathy, thank you very much for being on this show, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.
thank you. Keep up the great work. You guys are a real model of how clubs and central committees should operate, and we appreciate you. And we're going to get you some Republicans in 2022.
Some single member districts, right?
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.